Imagine two people standing in a grocery store aisle, both holding the exact same box of cereal. One person looks at the price tag and thinks, "That's reasonable, I'll buy it." The other person looks at the exact same price tag and feels their chest tighten, their palms get slightly sweaty. They put the box back on the shelf and walk away, even though they have enough money in their account to buy 1,000 boxes. Same product, same price, completely different reactions. Now here's the unsettling question. Which one of those people are you? And more importantly, why are you that way? The answer has almost nothing to do with how smart you are or how much money you currently have. The answer was programmed into your brain decades ago, before you ever earned your first paycheck, before you ever opened a bank account, before you even knew what money really was. Your financial decisions today, the way you spend, the way you save, the way you invest, the way you panic when the market drops, the way you feel guilty after buying something nice for yourself, all of it was shaped by experiences you probably don't even remember. And if you don't understand how that programming works, you will spend your entire life making financial decisions based on someone else's history. That's not a strategy, that's a trauma response. Morgan Housel opens his book The Psychology of Money with a simple but devastating observation. Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.0000001% of what has happened in the world, but they make up roughly 80% of how you think the world works. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out in real life. Imagine two people born in the same year, in the same country, with the same level of intelligence and the same earning potential. One of them graduated college in 1999 and started investing in the stock market right before the dot-com crash. They watched their first $10,000 of investments turn into $4,000 in a matter of months. They saw their friends lose jobs, they saw their parents panic. That experience seared itself into their brain. For the rest of their life, this person will instinctively distrust the stock market. They will keep too much money in cash. They will wait for the perfect moment to invest that never comes. They will miss out on decades of compound growth not because they're stupid or lazy, but because their first real experience with investing was a nightmare. Their nervous system learned a lesson, and that lesson is the stock market is dangerous. Now imagine another person. Same age, same background, but this person graduated in 2010 and started investing right as the greatest bull market in history was getting underway. Every dollar they put in seemed to magically turn into $1.20, then $1.50, then $2. They learned that the stock market is a wealth-generating machine, and dips are just buying opportunities. Their nervous system learned a completely different lesson, and that lesson is the stock market rewards the bold. Two people. Two completely different belief systems about the exact same asset class. And neither of them is right or wrong. They are both just acting rationally based on the tiny slice of economic history they personally lived through. This is what Housel calls your financial DNA. It's not something you're born with, it's something you acquire through experience. And here's the terrifying part. Most people go their entire lives without ever realizing that their financial decisions are just a replay of their past. Let's break this down with a simple visual. Think about your childhood. What were the dinner table conversations about money? Were your parents whispering about bills they couldn't pay? Were they arguing about spending while you pretended not to hear from your bedroom? Were they proudly telling you about the stock they picked that went up? Or was money simply never discussed at all as if it were a taboo subject like death or politics? Whatever happened in your household, that was your first classroom, and you absorbed those lessons unconsciously, the way a child learns a language without ever studying grammar. Here's how this invisible programming shows up in 4 common money personalities. Pay attention, because you will almost certainly recognize yourself in at least one of these. The scarcity mindset. This person grew up in a household where money was always tight. Maybe a parent lost a job. Maybe there was a medical emergency that wiped out the savings. Maybe they just lived paycheck to paycheck. As an adult, this person feels physical anxiety when spending money, even on things they need. They obsessively check their bank balance. They feel guilty after every purchase. On paper, they might be financially stable, but internally they operate from a place of fear. The tragedy is that this fear often prevents them from investing or taking calculated risks that could actually build wealth. They are so terrified of losing money that they guarantee they will never grow it. The status seeker. This person grew up feeling inferior to wealthier peers. Maybe they were the kid with hand-me-down clothes in a school full of designer labels. Maybe they were excluded from social events because their family couldn't afford it. As an adult, they use spending as a form of therapy and social proof. The fancy car, the designer watch, the Instagram-worthy vacations. These aren't purchases, they are attempts to heal an old wound. The problem is that the wound doesn't heal. The goalpost keeps moving. There's always someone richer. And so the spending continues even as the bank account screams for mercy. The oversaver. This person grew up with financial stability but emotional chaos. Money became a source of control in a world that felt unpredictable. As an adult, they derive a deep sense of security from watching their savings account number go up. This sounds healthy, and it's certainly better than drowning in debt, but taken to an extreme, it becomes its own form of dysfunction. The oversaver can't enjoy their money. They can't spend on experiences that would create joy. They can't be generous. They are financially rich, but emotionally impoverished, unable to use their wealth to actually live. The gambler. This person grew up seeing a parent or relative strike it rich through some high-risk bet. Maybe it was a stock that went to the moon, a real estate deal that paid off, or a business that succeeded against all odds. They internalized the lesson that wealth comes from swinging for the fences. As an adult, they chase get-rich-quick schemes. They YOLO into meme stocks. They trade options without understanding them. They are so focused on the one winner they saw that they ignore the thousands of losers who went broke trying the same thing. Their model of success is based on a lottery ticket, not a strategy. Now here's the insight that changes everything. None of these people are broken. None of them are bad with money by nature. They are all just responding rationally to the data their personal life experience has given them. The scarcity-minded person learned early that money can disappear overnight, so they treat it as fragile. The status seeker learned that money determines social value, so they use it to buy belonging. The oversaver learned that money equals control, so they hoard it. The gambler learned that wealth comes from one big score, so they keep rolling the dice. The problem isn't the behavior. The problem is that the lesson was learned in a specific time and place, and it may no longer apply to the world you actually live in today. Morgan Housel tells a story that perfectly illustrates this. He writes about a man named Ronald Read who worked as a gas station attendant and janitor his entire life. When Ronald Read died in 2014, he left behind an estate worth over $8 million. How did a janitor accumulate $8 million? Not through inheritance, not through a lucky stock pick, not through a side hustle or real estate empire. Ronald Read simply invested small amounts of money in blue-chip stocks and then held them for decades. No drama, no panic selling during crashes, no chasing hot tips. He just bought quality assets, reinvested the dividends, and let time do the heavy lifting. His story is a masterclass in the power of patient, boring investing. Now here's the haunting question. Why don't more people follow Ronald Read's example? Why don't we all just buy index funds and wait? The answer goes back to your financial DNA. If your life experience taught you that the world is volatile and dangerous, you will never have the nerve to stay invested during a crash. If your life experience taught you that wealth comes from flashy bets, you will never have the patience for slow compounding. If your life experience taught you that money is meant to be spent now because tomorrow isn't guaranteed, you will never make it to year 10 of your investing journey. Your behavior is not a reflection of your intelligence, it's a reflection of your history. And until you understand your history, you can't change your behavior. The first step to financial freedom isn't opening a brokerage account or learning to read a balance sheet. It's excavating your own money story. It's sitting down and asking yourself uncomfortable questions. What did my parents teach me about money, both through their words and through their actions? What was my first memory of financial stress or abundance? What am I so afraid of losing that I make irrational decisions? What am I so desperate to gain that I take unnecessary risks? These questions feel soft and psychological, but they are the most practical financial planning you will ever do. Because a spreadsheet means nothing if your nervous system is screaming at you to do the opposite of what it says. So, how do you rewrite your financial DNA? How do you stop being controlled by experiences you had at age 12? The first step is awareness. You need to identify your money personality. Go back to those 4 types I mentioned: scarcity mindset, status seeker, oversaver, gambler. Which one made you feel slightly uncomfortable? Which one made you think, that sounds a little too familiar? That discomfort is your compass. It's pointing you toward the wound that needs healing. The second step is to create a gap between the feeling and the action. When you feel the urge to panic sell during a market dip, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, am I making this decision based on current data, or am I reacting to something that happened 20 years ago? In that pause lies your power. The goal is not to eliminate the feeling. The feeling is hardwired. The goal is to feel the feeling and make a conscious choice anyway. The third step is to find new evidence. Your brain learned its money lessons from a small sample size. You need to feed it new data. Read books like The Psychology of Money. Study the long-term history of markets. Look at the charts that show the S&P 500's relentless upward march despite world wars, pandemics, and financial crises. Your brain needs to see that the world is more resilient than your childhood taught you. And finally, give yourself grace. You are not broken. You are not bad with money. You are a rational person responding to irrational early experiences. The fact that you're watching this video means you're already doing the work. Most people go their entire lives without ever questioning their money stories. You are already ahead. I want to leave you with one final thought from Morgan Housel's book that has stuck with me more than anything else. He writes that doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. And behavior is hard to teach even to really smart people. You can have a PhD in finance. You can understand complex derivatives and discounted cash flow models. You can work on Wall Street and manage billions of dollars. And you can still go broke if your behavior is driven by unexamined trauma. On the flip side, you can be a janitor who barely finished high school and you can die with $8 million. Not because you are smarter than the PhDs, but because you had a healthier relationship with money. Because you weren't fighting invisible battles with ghosts from your past. Because your behavior was aligned with reality, not with a story someone else wrote for you 30 years ago. So here is my challenge to you. After this video ends, take 5 minutes. Write down your earliest memory of money. Write down what your parents taught you about wealth, about debt, about rich people, about work. Then look at your current financial habits. See if you can draw a line connecting the past to the present. That line is your financial DNA. And once you can see it, you can finally start to change it.